Hey everybody, welcome to After Effects Tech Desk. Today I wanted to go over a way to use expressions to keep your projects clean and easy to edit. So here's the situation. Sometimes when you're starting to get into more complex animations in After Effects, you need to change the order of layers in the middle of the animation to achieve the effect that you want. So in this case, if we wanted this ball to go over this red bar, we would need to duplicate this layer, put it on top, change the in point of the top one, change the out point of the bottom one, and then we get it to go over the bar like we want. And that's okay. And you might even use parenting instead of duplicating the keyframes to make it easier. So parenting at that, and that helps. But you still have to deal with this in and out point, and sometimes if you're dealing with a lot and you change the timing of it, now you kind of have to deal with more in and out points, and especially if you're starting to play with your curves, this can really change where this needs to cut. And so it's just a lot to deal with. So I like to use an if-else expression to help make this easier to control. So let's jump into this other comp and I'll show you how I do that. Let's start with, for those without much experience in programming, an if-else statement is a basic building block of coding in just about every programming language. And it basically says this is the syntax of it, and After Effects is based on JavaScript, which is used for a lot of different purposes. So this might or might not be familiar to you, but here's the idea. You have if something is true, and so it's going to check whatever's in these parentheses if this is true. Then you have if it is true, do this. Else or otherwise, do this. So you can see I already have our expression kind of written out, and I'm not sure if you can tell what I'm planning to do here, but basically I'm telling the top one to look at the opacity of the bottom one and change it based on that. So what I'm doing is if the bottom one opacity is 0, that means the top one should be 100%. Otherwise, I want the top one to be invisible. Okay, that might have not made a lot of sense. So let's dig in here and we can see how that's working. On the bottom one, I have 2 hold keyframes. So you can see it's changed the bottom one. If we solo this, it's going from 100 and then I keyframe it to 0. You'll see, if you look at the opacity of the top one, and I unsolo the bottom, you'll see that as soon as this one turns to 0, this one pops on. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. So again, if we dig into this, let's do it from scratch. I'll hide that. And so we have the same setup that we had. And it kind of doesn't matter what we have turned on here, but so right now we'll do T for opacity there, T for opacity there. You can see the ball behind is there. And so what we have to do a couple things to make this expression first. First, we have to give a variable to the value of this so that we can assign it later. So we're just going to say top equals, and we can just pick whip this right to that. Then we're going to write our if-else expression. But first we're going to actually say, what again, another variable. So we're going to assign the bottom opacity to this variable. And by doing that, we just say bottom equals, and then we pick whip it right to that, and it writes it out for us. With expressions, we want to end with a semicolon, and each line with it. So we have this, and if we just put in then bottom, this is now going to be this exactly the same. So it's the same as pick whipping to this. Same exact thing. Just a little bit more code so that we can assign this. So now here's where we're going to write that if-else expression again. So remember, it's just the syntax is always if, two parentheses, then you have two brackets, then you have else, with two more brackets, and then you end with your semicolon. So if this is true or false, and there's a bunch of things you can put in here to evaluate. Then this is true, then this, okay. So we're going to say here, if, and what I like to do is put in that whole format right away, and then fill in the gaps. So I accidentally put parentheses. These are curly brackets. So I'll type open, close curly bracket, else. And of course this is broken because we haven't filled this in yet. So we're going to evaluate if the bottom one is 0. And when we're evaluating, it's not just setting it equal. If we're evaluating, it's two equal signs. You could also use greater than and equal here, or just greater than, or less than, of course, or less than equal. We want two equals. So if this bottom equals 0, then we're going to tell our top to equal 100. Otherwise, top should be invisible. So top, if this is invisible, top should be visible. Otherwise, top is invisible. Then we just have to call top again. Actually, I don't even think we do. There you go. So now, if we were to change our timing up, and let's say, see where, it's supposed to be in front of it there. Instead of having to deal with a bunch of in and out points, we just move that, and we're all set. And that's pretty much it. It's pretty easy, but the syntax can be a little tricky if you're new to programming languages. So if you have any questions, drop them in the comments and I'll try to help you get them answered. Or if you want to download the project files, head over to my Gumroad page where you can grab those for no cost at all. And of course, as always, if you found this useful, give me a like and don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon. Thanks and see you next time.